Thank you for staying tuned to Good Morning Vail. Amy Goscha from Goscha Law has joined me now. Thank you very much for being here this morning.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Mark tossed to it and said, hey, we're going to talk about Probate 101, and really that's what we want to do. We want to say, okay, those of you out there, you've just lost somebody. What happens then? The legal side has to be taken care of, and this is where you step in and say, I can help you.
Yeah, exactly. Just because people are going through a really hard time, if it's a family member or spouse, the last thing they want to do is figure out how to navigate through the process. So I can help with that, and usually a personal representative has to be appointed.
Okay.
And that person is basically in charge of making sure everything gets done with we call it the state administration process. And usually we call them the PR for short, will hire me to help kind of administer the estate.
Okay. And so if someone passes away with a will, there's still some stuff to do. If they pass away without a will, that becomes even more important. But it doesn't necessarily just go to the state if they don't have a will.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a common, misnomer that if you die without a will, that everything will automatically go to the state. There's actually priority as to how it gets distributed. And a PR still needs to be appointed. And when you die without a will, it's called the intestacy procedures. So
Okay.
Either if you have a will, it needs to be probated, or if you die without a will, you still go through the probate process in Colorado.
And when you talk about this PR, you talk about the personal representative. Can someone come to you without a PR and then you go get them, or do they have to have a PR?
Yeah, exactly. So there's kind of two ways that the PR gets appointed. A lot of times if you have a will, it will be designated who is the PR in the will, or if there's no will, there's actually a priority of who can be the PR, and then you file paperwork with the court to have the court appoint the PR.
Okay.
But the interesting part of Colorado is that 90% of estates are actually administered through an informal process, which means that they don't usually go in front of the judge. It's kind of dealt through the court administration.
Okay.
However, you still file things, and there's certain procedures. You have to, do a certain inventory. You have to give a notice to creditors. There's certain, things that you have to do, which, as a person not familiar with the process, it would be helpful to have a lawyer kind of walk you through it.
And can they come to you, so let's take it back. Let's go to a living will. Can you provide those services as well?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the other piece of my practice, is I do the estate planning as well. So
Okay.
I can do the living will, I do the medical power of attorney, I do the financial power of attorney, so all of those things. So those are valid when you're living and incapacitated, and then when we're talking about an estate, that's when someone has actually died, and going through their things and figuring out how their debts get paid, and what assets they have and where they go.
And it's never too early. People talk about a living will, as they get older, they maybe have grandkids, that sort of thing. You don't have to wait that long, and please don't wait that long.
Yeah, exactly. And it was interesting because I found, or I did research, that over 50% of Americans actually don't have estate planning in place. So it's important to get the estate planning in place, and then, once someone dies, then there's still a procedure to go through. But the good news is that Colorado is actually one of the easier and less expensive states to go through it.
Okay.
There's other states that it takes you more time and it's more expensive. So one thing I tell my clients is you don't automatically need a trust in Colorado. You shouldn't be afraid of the probate process, because it's not that hard and it's not that expensive. However, you have to make sure it's done correctly.
It's still a process.
Yeah, it's still a process.
What. Yep. Okay. Amy, thank you so much for being
here.
Probate 101, we just learned it. You need to do a living will as well, folks. Amy Goscha, she can be reached at 970-446-6327. Again, that number, 970-446-6327, or go to goschalaw.com. Stay tuned. We've got the weather and a huge change in the weather on the way with Mark next.